A very good afternoon, everyone who's joined us in here in the room and everyone who's there virtually with us. So, good afternoon, good evening, good morning also for some, I guess. So, before we
Yes.
start, I'll be very quickly spelling out a few housekeeping rules that are in interest of all of us. So, in the interest of health and safety, please make sure that your masks are fully covering both the nose and the mouth and are always kept on at all the times, including the time when you're asking the questions. Microphones will not be shared or passed. Please ask your questions from the stationary microphone stand, so you'll be given the microphones, I guess. Right, someone will be helping you with that. Then the microphones have all been sanitized. The last 15 minutes of the session, we will have all the Q&A. All the audience in person and on Zoom will be given equal chances to ask questions and go ahead and clear their doubts, and we try to help you as much as we possibly can. All right, so can we please have our presentation on, and we'd very quickly like to start off. Okay, so I would like to welcome you to this session on the second day of the IC3, 5th annual IC3 conference. We are going to be talking about what we think is maybe an unsurmountable task, but when you get to it, we are kind of able to put things into frame because of experiences, learning, the kind of interactions that we have. So I'll very quickly introduce myself and my co-presenters as well. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Right, so I am Saumya. I am from Unison World School. I am the school counselor there. My co-presenters are Ms. Vandana Murjani. She's the head of the career counseling cell at the Emerald Heights International School. I also have with me Ms. Rachana Sippy, who is the career coach and college counselor at Dubai International Academy. So we'll all be sharing with you primarily what we call our experiences. This is not set in ice. What we'll be talking to you about primarily. So it is going to be in the interest of all of us if we go ahead and put up a lot of questions, discuss, share experiences, and contribute. So all of you are invited to be a part of the session as much as we are out here, right? So can we have the next click? Just one. Okay, one more. Okay. How many of you can we have the slide enlarged, please? Because unless we see it in full, we don't realize. Have any of you ever felt there's someone who said that your job and her job is the same? Have you ever had parents come across and say, look into a crystal ball and tell me what will my child be? Has it ever happened to anyone? Sharing of experience? Yes, no, never. How many yeses? Absolutely. Rachana, do you have something to share there?
Yes, definitely. I had this very interesting parent who came to me 2 years ago to tell me, I've come to you just to tell you that I need support from you. We know what my child will do. She wants to become a doctor as per my astrologer. I do not want you to talk to her, say anything to her. She's picking up on her academics doing really well, but very clearly that she'll be a doctor as per her astrology and her numerology. And I don't want her to be even given a second option there. We strongly believe in what the astrologer says, what the numerologist says, and I think the best option is we go by what they say. We've always adhered to what they say, and we've done very well in life. 4 years down, so 1 year down the line after she graduated from school, she went and did her medical. She came back the second year and said, please, I cannot do medical anymore. I need to change my career. I said, is your parent aware of it? Because earlier she didn't allow me to talk to you about it. She says, don't care about her, just tell me what I can do. And then we went through the procedure of how to choose what career choice. And interestingly, currently she's a fashion merchandiser working now.
Right. So from
Interesting, isn't it?
astrologer's medicine to fashion, that's the difference that we go ahead and make when we make sure that this is a scientifically woven out process This is not a function where we look into a crystal ball and we just tell the student, okay, fine, you're destined to be this, so let's work in this direction. That is exactly the ground that we'll be talking on right now. However, when we speak around this, I would repeat myself here and would really, really want everyone to make a note of it, that this is going to be very student customized. This is going to be school customized. And we will kind of try to factor all those things as much as possible. And that is why the discussion. All right. So this is how this is supposed to be a student story, but a counselor's experience. We clearly do not gaze into crystal balls. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So let's talk about what can we really define a counseling curriculum. We tried to put it in words, and I think Vandana is the best person to go ahead and explain this to us.
Thank you, Saumya. Am I audible?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right. So a very good afternoon to all the friends, and hello from the other side. Hello to the other side of the audience here. So thank you, Saumya, for pitching me in for explaining my definition of what I consider to be counseling curriculum as. According to me, what I have studied in these years, counseling curriculum is actually a grade-wise, 1 year long, self-curated content. So like you said right now, it is very, very specific to student body, it is specific to school ethos. Similar is like self-curated considering those factors. It is exclusively and scientifically devised to tickle students, to tap into their own potentials and help them walk on the most appropriate and well-suited career path. So we are using the word walk through, right? We're not directly helping them to discover. So as the world of work is evolving, we all are seeing that changing rapidly. We all have somewhere realized, somewhere to a great extent, we've realized the need of skill-based learning. And through this curriculum, we can actually create an ecosystem within our own schools so that it's an added value beyond our automated and structured systems. So before we proceed, I also want to, talk about something interesting that I recently learned during one of the courses. It was a term called habitude. So I really loved this term, which is an amalgamation of habit plus attitude. So through this curriculum, I think we can definitely develop minds to build the right attitude and also to develop those habits. Isn't it interesting? So let's get going.
Absolutely, Vandana. The habitude thing is definitely here with us to stay, and we are all trying to bring about a paradigm change in our schools with our students, and that is something that we need to be working on, and it does take some time. Can we move on, please? Okay, so let's talk about different. As I said, counselors will have a different school setting, right? I, for example, come from a school that is residential, completely residential, all-girls school. We follow an ISC curriculum. We also follow a Cambridge curriculum. Vandana, meanwhile, comes from a day school, which is a CBSE curriculum school. And she has got, I guess, 400 students just in grade 12, Vandana, if I'm not wrong.
Right, 387 is the correct number.
See, so that's the number. That's the huge number that she's tackling. Now, the third person among us is Rachana, and she comes from an IB school, which again has got a large number of students, but the requirement for an IB student is completely different. Now, when we try to go ahead and, choose a starting, can there be a starting point? Ideally, there really can't be a point where you can say, okay, fine, career counseling starts here. You can start talking to your student as early as maybe say grade 3, 4. But talking in what terms? You can start talking in terms of building specific skills as basic as communication, motor skills, trying to choose what do I do, trying to choose what do I leave out, right? So when we kind of, were discussing around this, we thought maybe say grade 8 would be a good time to start with a formal counseling curriculum that we want to look at this point. What we decided was that it's very important for the counselor to help the student turn the telescope inside. That means make sure that the student is able to identify his or her strengths, is able to identify the weaknesses, areas of improvement, is able to go ahead and communicate what is it that the student is trying to work on, what is it the student is trying to say to whoever is the person concerned with that issue, right? Now, when I am saying this, in this perspective, it is very important to make your student understand the school setting. What is a school setting? School setting in my case is the fact that we are a residential school, we are an all-girls school. I am I'm a person who's talking to students from ISC curriculum, I'm a person who's talking to students from Cambridge curriculum. Therefore, my requirements from the school that is an IB continuum or from a school that is, say, suppose a CBSE school are very, very different. So for example, I know for a fact that when my students go ahead, come to grade 8, after grade 8, they have a chance to move on to IGCSE. I need to curate my curriculum in a manner so that I can go ahead and give that opportunity to my student to understand what do these curricula offer. Right? So if I have a choice of that, I will speak to my students about that. I need to educate them on school setting. For example, when Vandana is a CBSE school, so in that case, she needs to be talking to them, say about skill development more than, anything else. Because she will not have students in that dilemma of, okay, should I go for an IG? Should I continue with CBSE? Is that really a tussle that my students are facing? No, they're not. So making the student understand the school setting is a primary importance. Then understanding the student themselves. So you will see that there are certain commonalities in a batch. We all as teachers understand this, that there's always a good batch, and then there's always a naughty batch, and then there's always a batch that we always remember, right? So pick out those batch commonalities. See what is it that you can do with that batch. Understand the student and make them understand themselves. Inclusion of the stakeholders. So what I really do, when my students come into grade 8, I make sure that I go ahead and talk to the parents and tell them about what is a counseling office and what are the responsibilities and what is the kind of help that I as a counselor and my office can provide to them. So inclusion of the stakeholders, be it parents, be it teachers, be it the school management, obviously the student has to be very important. And the earlier you set the benchmarks, the better it is. Because then people will come to you for the right things and not for everything. We all know that, right? Okay, then introduction to disciplines is something that I specifically do, and I guess Rachana would also agree to that. Right, as schools that offer international curricula, it becomes slightly important for us to go ahead and explain to our students that disciplines will go ahead and tend to certain areas of study. So you can go ahead and pick and choose, okay, fine, I like to study this with this, therefore I'll, kind of choose this kind of a combination. Or I do not like to study this with this, so I'll choose a different kind of a combination. I hope I'm clear up until now, right? Okay. So from here, I would now want to introduce you to one of our students. Mudita, can we move on to the next slide, please? Now, this is my very dear student, Emily, right? And she is a student who's a very happy child, loves coming to this school, and Emily enjoys study of languages and social sciences. Through the counseling curriculum, through the points that we are going to be sharing with you, we'll be showcasing to you the story of Emily as well. What are the changes? What were her experiences? What were her, nuances that she was able to observe all the while, right? So let's move on and see how does Emily's story turn out to be, all the while browsing through the curriculum options that we have. All right, can we move on, please? Okay, so Vandana would here take over and try to explain to us what is it the best that we can do with our grade 8 students and grade 9 students. Thank you. Vandana, would you chime in, please?
Thank you, Saumya. Thank you so much. You really made me nostalgic by reminding me of sweet little Emily. So basically, Emily was always excited and a little nervous to know what would life look like to her to get to the end and, do not regret any decisions that she'd made. Many children like Emily, whatever their academic performances or strengths are, They are often anxious about career pursuits. They are keen in knowing what destiny beholds for them, and sometimes they are in a rush also. And that's where our curriculum, grade wise content will keep the students, but ourselves also, quite hooked to what we are here for. So, somewhere in grades 9th and 10th, in my school, like Saumya said, we are a CBSE school. So, looking at my student body, the heterogeneous group, and I would also like to correct one thing. Saumya said we are a we are a day school. We are residential come day school. So a lot of students join, say, majorly 11th, but also 9th. So these are the class. These are some students who really need a lot of work. So this my curriculum for 9th and 10th majorly entails classes like SWOT analysis, how to make most of the school activities and clubs. They do join, they enroll their names, but are they, do they know what is the purpose? What are they meant for? So these are some classes which we take at length. What is profile? Is it only to show to the universities or to the world? Actually, it is not. Profile, I always tell them that it's an interchangeable term. When you are there, your personality, confidence, skill set should reflect your profile. But in your absence, does the paper reflect your personality? And that is profile. So we talk all these things. Some lessons like easy steps to build profile. What is Khan Academy? How will PSAT benefit? Some time management tips also, because students really get hassled. Like, how do I manage school also, my coaching also in the evening, then so many activities and home assignments, school assignments, teacher assignments. They are really confused. They really, they feel spread out and lost in this entire gamut. So some time management tips plus some study skills workshops are the ones that I really emphasize and do a lot, especially with 9th and 10th graders. Why should they participate in activities? What are some subtle differences between hobbies and activities? Sometimes children feel that I just love doing a certain thing in my free or a leisure time. So that can be also taken. That can be, but not necessarily. So we strike out those differences through these curriculum classes. So for CBSE students like mine, class 9 is their very first encounter with taking one small decision. Like Saumya school is very different, or maybe Rachana school is different, where they take major decisions here. But in our school, CBSE system, class 9th is the very first encounter for them, because they need to take one small decision related to their career, which is whether they should opt for basic math or the standard math. And this is their first decision, where these, classes that we conduct, they are quite able to, help them recognize their strengths, and they, do not jump on to taking any quick decisions. So while quite a many lessons may look like apt for 9th also, for 10th also, but I see that there are some topics which I take in all 4 years. The level goes on increasing, the content may go on advancing grade wise. But having said this, I think our curriculum needs to be woven considering our school ethos again and students' need. So although like quite a much could be common to both, however, in my case, I have really embedded thorough and rigorous detailed lessons in class 10, which are additional than the class 9, like embedding, topics like psychometric testing, what are their benefits and what are their limitations also. Differentiation of abilities, what are these abilities? It is psychometric testing is never a test which, titles or tags a student as pass or fail or scoring mark or what. It is actually a differentiation of abilities which can be different in different students, and we are all beautiful in our own ways. Or maybe personality types in context to career path. What is liberal education? Because after 10th, students, need clarity. What is liberal education? This is their time when they should know what it is. Interdisciplinary concept. They should now think about moving away from streamlined um, streams like only PCM or only commerce. There is a possibility of interdisciplinary. What is streamlined? Who is good for streamlined? And with all the rationale behind, some facts, some stories behind, this really gives them a broader as well as a view. So just to summarize this entire thing, the curriculum for grades 9th and 10th should majorly entail lessons and activities on self-exploration as well as the exploration of the tools outside or maybe the opportunities and also the changing trend outside. So with this, I would give a pause to this slide. And if there are any questions, please feel free to type in as and when we will take. And if there are any additional inputs, please do let us know. And we would definitely welcome your opinion as well.
Vandana,
So,
as
Saumya,
much as you'd like to pause, I'm really curious, when you took Emily through this, what happened next?
is the slide working?
Can we move on to the next one, please? And one more thing, I'd request one of you, the volume of the phone is very loud. It's the
So
next
now
one.
you
Oh, okay. Let's just can't do much about it. Sorry. Right. So I am still curious about Emily. So when you took her through all of this, what happened
Yeah.
next?
Thank you, Saumya, for asking me. Basically, Emily was a very sweet girl, very confident in whatever she pursued, right? But a slight shadow of worry always, hovered around her.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure.
after grade 10, we accumulated all her experiences, interests, reflections from the curriculum classes or the clubs or activities that she had enrolled for or participated in. And after all of that, we got an indication that Emily is people friendly. She enjoys helping and socializing and also loves doing creative work like decoration, beautification of products, home, even designing the dresses for her own family.
Mm-hmm.
Her academic records also indicated that English and social sciences were stronger than the sciences. Emily completely relied on us and said that she could opt for whatever I say, but not science. Now, this was again, a little tough situation for me. Not sciences means either humanities or commerce, but even see these two streams also need to be understood well by the student, by me. It's
Absolutely.
the matter of her life, her future. So she only gave me this indication. And then, asking a lot of questions about what is the topic which you hate doing, what is that subject which you really hate doing, would not like to do. So I get some indication, not some, in fact, quite a much. Probing questions was that she loved studying political sciences and geography over accountancy kind of thing. So this is where she opted for humanities and she also opted for applied mathematics. And she continues to outperform in academics and her extracurriculars. And she is, still unsure that what should she choose as a career. And she's in a hurry basically. She feels that her sister was very well decided at this age. And and
Sorry for
we
that.
and these were some indications that were giving me also clarity. What should I include more? So these are some indications which forced me to include topics like we are never late. It's a journey. Some people cover it fast, some people take time. So this is where
Absolutely.
Emily
I
was.
will keep
Saumya,
on. I'll keep
over
on
to you.
probing you about Emily. Don't worry. I'm far too excited to understand what happened to the kid later on. So now, moving ahead, can we please? So up until now, what we were doing, we were turning the telescope inside, trying to get to know ourselves. Where do we stand? What could be the kind of inner priorities? What could be the kind of things that we want to to be better at, might not want to be very serious about. So let's go ahead, once we've gone ahead and done this bit, having studied ourselves to the best possible, terms, let's now turn the telescope outside. So here I would want to invite my co-presenters to let's start talking about what can we do once we move to grade 11. So can we have the next slide, please? All right, so I will possibly ask Vandana to start about the first thing, because she has a very extensive way of doing this bit, the very first point. Vandana, could you please?
Yeah. So thank you, Saumya. Basically, this is the only first point that I'll take because I feel I'm talking too much. But yeah, just like Saumya pointed out, I have a huge student body. Only class 12 is 387. Can you imagine my workload? 1200 students from 9, 10th, 11th, 12th. So here in class 11, we have the flexibility. We give the students all the flexibility to take one complete month to, taste the subjects. Go into those subjects and understand the chosen subjects deeply. Make notes of what's working, what's not working with you. Keep making notes, and one complete month is given to them. All of them. They are even given the liberty to try out certain combinations with the elective subjects, not with the mainstream. So one complete month is good enough for them to understand the subject, the stream, the teachers, the content within, because at times students at this point are not very well versed with the depth of the content, and they make some surface level information as the whole soul of it. So that is what I really realize, is that the curriculum for grade 11 needs the massive amount of attention and energy. And whichever affiliation is it, I don't think so that grade 11 IB students don't need much of the work. Because now here onwards, the journey steers. Till now, we were talking about exploration of strengths, academic weaknesses, also skills, developing skills as well as analyzing skills. So in our school, we begin grade 11 by talking at length about revisiting their chosen subjects, understand and observe what's working well with them, make note of each and everything. Our students do have career copy, notebook. And whenever they enter the resource center, it is mandatory for them to come with the career copy, whether they have technology or what. And currently we are using technology, no doubt. And what's not working is, these are some records which we tell them to make at least twice a week, if not every day. Are there gaps? Then when we see those, we find out, are there gaps? We tell them to probe into. Are there gaps into what they had presumed a particular subject or a stream to be and what the reality was? Then we give them complete month to take a final call. Because after all, it's a matter of their lives. So this is how I start class 11. Over to you, Saumya.
Absolutely. That is a very important thing to do. And, I guess somewhere or the other, deep down, all of us do understand that we do need to give our students the time to revisit. So up until now, we've been making all the kinds of dots. Grade 11, the entire theme that we work on as counselors is based on how do we best connect those dots to bring out a beautiful design. It might not be possible in the first go. I mean, colleagues, I'd like to say that. But we should never, kind of shy away from trying to reconnect those dots to bring out a beautiful picture. So we know by now that our student is this, and this. But how do we connect those four things to bring out the best in the student? That is the aim. These pointers can change for each one of us. But the theme of having to do this will not change. And I guess I'll now invite Rachana to share a little more about what is that she does differently.
So at DIA, we are an IB school, and at an IB school, we have a lot of students who come from various countries. So we can't focus only on Indian students or a particular country itself. We have to look at various countries and what they basically going in for in the future. So we definitely have a revisit of subject choices, but we give them 2 weeks. But before they join grade 11 or year 12, in year 11 and grade 10, we have a taster week where we introduce students of grade 10 to the mock DP week of subjects, how they will learn. What is DP all about? So they give it a whole week to understand their subjects, to know how they can choose in the right way. So given their grades, they have the grades with them, they have their subject choices with them, and then I have at least a 3-hour session with them on university placements. Now, for me, it's very important that I start with focus research about countries. Why? Because in my experience, I've had so many students who come back from US and say, Miss, I'm not happy. US is not my country. I'm not comfortable. I want to go to UK next. Vice versa, I have students who come from UK and say, Miss, I'm not comfortable. I think I want to move to US. And I'm wondering, where have I gone wrong? Have I failed somewhere? Have I not given the right information to these students? Why are they making such fatal mistakes in their future choices where a whole year is being wasted? And keeping that in mind, I've introduced that in grade 10, year 11, I talk to them about countries, the structure of a country curriculum. What is a country all about? What is UK all about? UK is completely structured. US is completely flexible. Canada is in between, flexible and structured. So where does a child fit based on their personalities? That's the first thing I introduce students to always. And that's where I've realized that first I choose is a country focus, then it's a career. What career? So we connected the dots. We looked in, we looked out, and we connected the dots really well to understand, make a wholesome thing to know what they like. And of course, it's an evolving journey where people keep changing and growing. There are students who've gone with the aim to go for medical, have come back with a finance degree in hand, which is actually normal, but at least they're well informed. They know what they're going into, and that's perfectly fine. So these are things that we tell them it's okay. We invite alumni and allow them to talk to students, to the year 11 students who are going into year 12, that's grade 11, to tell them what to expect in grade 12 or in it's year 12 for DIA. So in grade 11. So we had students from second years of college, first year of college, and a senior year to tell them what to expect of every year when they're going to head towards the transitions. It was so simply given them in steps how and what they're expecting that it went really well with them. So we have a taster week. In that taster week, we have alumni, we have the senior students, giving them all the information. We have country choices to be made. That's the first. Next is super curricular activities. What have they done in their choice of interest, in their majors? How have they enriched their knowledge beyond the class boundaries? What kind of research they've done, what kind of reading they've done, what kind of books they read, who have they contacted, any professors, any people they know who are in the field, how do we go about this? It's very important for them to understand this, plus do an internship if possible, do online courses if possible, understand if that is the right career choice or no. Then we talk about the financial aid, where it comes to students to know whether it's a right fit for their family pockets as well. It's very important for us to understand that our students' parents meet the requirements of the fees they're going to pay. There's so many parents who come back and say, we can't afford. And times like this, when suddenly parents have lost jobs, students can't go abroad, they've changed their mind, they've stayed back in Dubai or gone back back to their hometown in maybe Europe or UK or India, it's very disheartening to see students like this. So we always have a plan B and a plan C in mind, and I've created one emergency plan in mind as well. So this is my fourth thing that I say. Plan A is where you want to go, your interest. Plan B is ask for your second choice. Plan C is what parents can afford or not. And plan D is an emergency if things don't work out well, like the COVID, what happened and how could we make a change? And how could we adjust to that? So we've introduced these three plans we already had. I've introduced an emergency plan as well now in my when I'm talking to the students about. Next is identifying maximizing potential. Very important because universities get thousands of applications. How do we maximize a student's potential? What do we do? So we have a mantra called extraordinary from the ordinary. So whatever ordinary you're doing, make it extraordinary. And that becomes the wow factor, the X factor that can make your application stand out. That's something that I absolutely talk to students about. So creating something very extraordinary from an ordinary. Say, for example, one of my students went to Bombay for a holiday. And there a courier boy came to him, giving him something. He was deaf and dumb. So this boy was so shocked. He said, "How can a deaf and dumb be a boy?" So he talked to him, spent more time with him. He realized that this boy stays actually in a orphanage, but he works from there. And then he went ahead to check that these people didn't know English. They were speaking their local language. So he got an idea. He came back to Dubai. He told his friends, I've been this orphanage. We need to give them a storybook, but in different languages. So they created some short value storybooks they made, and then translated to different languages. So they translated into English, into Hindi, into Malayalam, into Tamil, into Punjabi, and they gave them the cassettes. They could hear, the people could hear. They asked them to read, they gave them visuals as well. That became from the ordinary, he made it something very extraordinary. And this boy got into Yale because he did something so different, so unique to what others were doing. So these kind of things we look into. We tell students from year 8 onwards or 9, our mantra DI is doing extraordinary from the ordinary. It can be a personal project, it can be your research, it can be your short assignments. See how you can change that and maximize your potential to ensure that you do the best here. So I'm done from the slides. So do you want to add something here?
No, I think you're to the point, and as I said, the major thing here that we're trying to follow is the theme. The pointers will change from school to school, from setting to setting, student requirement to student requirement. It has to be the most beautiful picture that is possible for the student is what we're trying to do here, right? Now, when Vandana painted this picture, I'll come back to my very dear Emily. I'm almost in love with this kid. Very, very, kind of very disciplined, extremely ambitious kid. What happened next? Can we see what happened to Emily next, please? Next slide. Yes. Vandana,
You
can you
keep
hear
reminding
us?
me. Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes,
You keep
absolutely.
reminding me of Emily, and her face comes right in front of me. Very sweet girl. So, if you ask me, did Emily benefit from this? So, my perspective is certainly yes, Saumya and all my dear friends. Because our grade 11 curriculum also entails significance of internships, course-based summer programs, job shadowing. Lessons like these are very important in grade 11. So for Emily, her academic records reflected psychology, English and arts as very strongly. Emily is quite keen now on pursuing psychology because she had scored 98, 99 throughout the year. And she always expressed that she really loved the subject to the core. And she had always enjoyed it immensely and thoroughly. So I did speak to psychology teacher also. And she had a very positive feedback on her performance, not only academically, but also her involvement in various case studies which were handled by the teacher related to the primary kids. And juxtaposing, our arts teacher also had a very positive feedback on her work. So we were again at the crossroads. And Emily was like, you just tell me what I have to do, and he wants to get away from this tension at this point. But we are still at crossroads. See,
At this point, you'll
being good
often
at
have.
psychology,
Absolutely. At this
yeah,
point, I've seen that we often have students who are at crossroads and look for one validation, one point of
yeah,
validation that they can get from us. You
sure.
know, ma'am, tell
So,
me, sir, tell me.
yeah, so what we did here was, I called Emily in my office and I suggested her to utilize the vacations very properly because this is the free time now. You don't have your online classes and everything. Take 2 internships during this break. One with the school psychologist because our behavioral psychologist office is always open, even during, because we are a residential school also, so during holidays also, and even on Sundays. So she was suggested to at least spend 1 week with the school psychologist. And also, once she's done with this, then I told her to, because mother was very, very positive about her designing skills. And she always said, ma'am, the way she designs her nails, and she had shown me all of those, kind of tattoos that she'd done with pen and pencil and the sketches also. So, and Mama also shared with me that there was a wedding in the family, and Instead of having a boutique at home in one of the relatives' place, people were coming to Emily. So this was one kind of indication that she's also good at designing. But to what extent? Because just being good is again not a final decider to push a child into a course in design. So we also asked her to rework on the brag sheet. At this point, she suggested to spend 1 week with the school psychologist, and after that, take a little break, record all your notes. How did your time go? What was really, a wow factor? Because psychology has always been her favorite subject. And what were not so good factors or the experiences or the moments? This is the homework given to her. Take another week with the boutique that they have, because they also mentioned that there's a boutique in the family, some distant relative. So I told her, after that, you go and spend a week there. Work with your aunt and see how is it happening. Then I also gave her some brag sheet. The brag sheet is already given to them while they are in 11th. I told her to rework on the brag sheet if there is anything that you want to add or delete after 1 year's experience, and also shared one more brag sheet with the parents, which had some records or the inputs from the parents. And from here, then she goes, and the school breaks after class 11, breaks for the holidays after grade 11th holiday examinations. So this, with all of this homework, she goes on a holiday.
Lovely. So
Does
the
this
last bit that
help you?
we'll be, yeah, absolutely, Vandana. Thank you. The last bit that we'll be covering in the interest of time, right? And as curious I am about Emily, now that she'd be in grade 12, can we please move to the next slide? That's the last leg, the supposed last leg. I don't really think that career counseling ends right after grade 12, so I'd not really be calling it the last leg out there. But yeah, one final, sort of a patch, if we could say, right? So talking about the final few things that we can possibly have again. The telescope is still turned outside. People, please remember the theme here that we follow is action. All we need here is get, set, go. It is important for us to understand the student priorities, country-wise, money-wise, course-wise, the kind of courses that are delivered, there-wise, culture-wise, even for that matter, temperature-wise. Very cold climates, some students are very, very sensitive to, right? And based on the priorities, coming up with the right kind of fit and shortlisting of courses in universities. Now, all of us have been doing it, but say what if we have a final list of priorities with us, our shortlisting becomes so easy. We can go ahead and be on point and suggest to the student and then ask the student to research on that and then come back to us with that. Now, when we have the right kind of shortlist with us, this is very, very organic. We'll move very organically. I mean, once we have the shortlisting, we can decide on the timeline. Is it UK? Is it Singapore? Is it US? Is it whatever country, India? What is it that we're trying to go ahead and what is the kind of course? Because in India also, if we look at it, different courses have different timelines. So we need to factor that in, right? So let's move on very quickly, Rachana. Again, I'd like to very politely remind we are running out of time and we have a little more to share with people. Could you very quickly talk about application docs, essays, and financial aid?
So I would just say one thing very clearly here. The right fit is when you buy a right shoe. If you buy the right shoe, you fit it well. If you buy a shoe bigger, you trip and fall. If you buy a shoe smaller, it's going to bite you. Similar way when it comes to colleges, you need to look into every factor, the hidden culture, the students, the peer around them, the activities they have, the climate. Is it the urban or the city or suburban or a rural campus? Is it a campus or is it in the city, built in the city? Looking at all these aspects, we choose of the university and shortlist them accordingly. Timelines are given to them by beginning of grade 11, year 12, so that they're aware of how to follow the timelines for 2 years continuously. Application, we use either Common App or UCURS, OUAC, StudyLink, Collation. These are the common platforms. For Australia, we use the VTAC and the UTAC in Australia we use. In Ireland, they have it own in their own countries. They have their own specific applications to each universities. So we tell them all about all this. college essays. Now, essays are very interesting because it shows a different facet about you. It shows a different way how you think, and it's a quality that they want to see in a student. And what we do here is basically we talk to the student and in length to understand what is their difference that they can add on campus. So they can show that it can add value to the application. We do a lot of research in with them, and in some time we also invite parents to give us some inputs about their children so that we know how to work things out to get a better idea of the child. So I'll give you one example of two sisters this parent had, two daughters. The elder daughter was slightly on the darker side. The younger one was very, very fair. So every day the mother would tell her sister, elder daughter, to use Fair and Lovely. And so keeping that every day to use Fair and Lovely. So she wrote a whole essay on Fair and Lovely. And it was a fantastic essay. She got into Cornell. But she wrote, the way she wrote about the essay was fabulous, how she was made uncomfortable by her parents, but her parents didn't mean bad. They just wanted her to become fair, thinking that, that she's a darker skin who will marry her. For them, it was the future, but for her, it was every day her self-esteem was going down, confidence was going low, but she fought it out, and she said it did not impact me because my parents are thinking good for me, not in any other way. And that's how she was able to get over it. So we talk to the students and the parents to see what best can be used in the essays to come that out. For average students and below average, we spend more time because we know the good do well anyway. We ask parents to give a back sheet from their side to give us information on how they can give us the strengths of the child at home and how we can match it in school. Then for me to scholarships, of course, we have need blind, we have nomination scholarships, we have scholarships on financial aid. Now in Dubai, everybody thinks we are highly loaded out here. People are doing very well. It's a luxury city. So most of our students who ask for financial aid are always rejected. So we either do need blind or we have scholarships that are on merit, and we have scholarships that are basically nomination. And this year DIA got $6.4 million scholarship across Canada, US, and UK. And we had a lot of nominations, and we got a lot of scholarships from those nominations. So we did fantastically well there. So that's all from the slide. Can you move to the next slide,
Can we
please?
move on to the next one, please? So Vandana
Yeah.
comes in now to tell us about what Emily does
Emily,
next.
yes.
Ah, Emily, let's wait for where Emily is. But yes, a well-defined curriculum definitely helps them be on track, condition their minds, and create the seriousness. So what Emily decides? Emily comes back after her internships. She shares that her days with the psychologist, this was really, really surprising for each one of us, that her days with the psychologist were really gloomy and sad. She'd started absorbing some pains which she heard throughout the day with the psychologist. She got nightmares, sleepless nights, headaches, whatnot. She also said that psychology was still her favorite subject, but just as a subject, ma'am, certainly not as a career. This was her dialogue. While on the other side, her experience with the fashion designer was super awesome. Though she worked until late night, some festivity or so at the boutique, yet she returned with energy. This is what she shared with me. She enjoyed looking at the customers, dealing with them because she was people friendly, helping them select the dresses, what is suiting, necklines, creative outfits, and so many things she enjoyed over there. Joy was actually reflecting in her voice and her cheeks when she was talking about this internship. And this experience actually turned the tables. This was actually very surprising for all of us. Parents, teachers, friends, everyone. Each one of us was actually shocked. Emily is going to be pursuing psychology. Even she herself was. She was really surprised. What has happened? She didn't have words to speak about how she was feeling at that point of time. But having taken lessons on internships, job shadowing that were weaved in her curriculum, her mind was actually open to exploring more, be open to receiving more, and develop a vision for herself, a vision of being happy throughout the life. So constant lessons really update students on changing trends, educate them on following the scientific approach towards career selection. And fortunately, we have complete hold over our deliverables. It takes a lot of time, efforts, a lot of observations to actually devise the curriculum. But it's a process which needs constant analysis, constant work with ourselves. What is working, what isn't. In fact, in my curriculum, you'll see a lot of lessons on English language, email writing, communication. Because I said we are CBSE and a lot of students come from small towns whose English foundation is not as strong as the students who are with us right from the beginning. So, whichever board or affiliation we are, I don't think it matters much. But it's about, like breaking those barriers which are stopping them to achieve something big or grow and building some more opportunities through our curriculum. It's a lab. Actually, it's a lab for them to enjoy, express, try, error, fail, succeed, whatever. Not only for the college admissions, or in fact, Kala very well put this in her session on day 2 of the pre-conference, that we need to do all of these things not only for their admissions or their first jobs, but the very, very entire lifetime. And this was actually, this was shocking for everybody. But then this was the reality. Had we not, conditioned her mind for taking the internship, she would have actually entered the field of psychology.
Absolutely.
And later she would have regretted badly.
Right.
So you can turn now. Just see where is your
I'm
Emily.
just a little more curious. Can we please move on to the next one to see where did she land up finally?
Please turn the slide. Let us break this.
So there she is.
So Emily, Emily is now pursuing BA honors in fashion design and textiles. And she's also specializing in creative fashion cutting at LaSalle College of Arts in Singapore. The decision was actually made very earnestly, keeping in mind the culmination of the experiences, parents' inputs, brag sheets, and most importantly, Emily's satisfaction and her own voice. So this was completely, and she's still in touch with us. And she is very happy there, and she's very thankful that she did not actually, take any decision in a hurry, but she went through this process. And likewise, like there are many kids who really save themselves from regretting later. So this was my journey
with Emily, and that's where our counseling culminates. I guess all my colleagues here will agree with that. Student happiness is where it culminates, irrespective of 1 year out of school, 2 years out of school. So Vandana, could you please very quickly share your screen with us with respect to a quick glimpse to a sample curriculum that we wanted to show to all of you?
Sure. So this is the sample curriculum?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
does this, is it visible?
Yes. You'll have to kind of slide it towards, I think it's my right.
Better?
Yeah. So this is what we usually do with students. We go ahead and, again, there will be changes. Please don't expect that this is something that, that is to the T. I'll very quickly take you through grade 8 lessons, introduction to career counseling. We talk about interest, aptitude, talk about jobs versus career, talk about subject choices versus career options, choices of curriculum, team building workshops, and a very important goal setting, parent interaction. We do certain reflections, tiers of activities, student group presentations where students present some little bit of research that they have done. We go ahead and indulge students in debates, career conversations, and this is where we start with CV building as well. Grade 10, again, relating the careers to the different streams if you are an Indian curriculum school. Liberal education, talking about degrees. So this is one thing that I do a little different, where I teach them about the degrees, whether it's a diploma, certification program, dual degree, joint degree program, integrated degree program. What do these stand for and what is the kind of benefit from it, right? For grade 11, again, one thing that I really emphasize on is when I teach them how to connect with the universities via emails. So this is one area that my students struggle in. They don't really know what tone to use and how to request for information from universities. So we do have a definite session on this, and I make them practice writing emails to universities and to their seniors, requesting for their experience, the kind of inputs that they could give them, So that is again one thing. And grade 12 as it is most of one-on-one sessions, parents involved in the entire process, the other stakeholders involved in the entire process. One thing that we very religiously like to do is the academic writing workshops that help the students express themselves better and also critically analyze their own thoughts before putting it in front of anyone, be it the examining body or be it the university admissions office. Right? So this could act as a reference. Vandana can share this on the Zoom platform, right? And we can, a lot of you on our Zoom audience has shared with us their email IDs. We'd be happy to share all of this with you. Any questions, anyone? I know we've already run
Yeah,
out
I
of
think
time.
Soumya, I think you need to add the mock interviews that we do in
Yes,
year
yes,
grade
please.
11, year 12. So
Yes.
we do students, we have 6 students who are the admission officers, and we give them case studies where they can actually be admission officers and tell them where they can invite them to their school based on their profile. And why would they invite and why would they not offer them a place? So we do that mock session with them also.
Mock sessions very, very important. One becomes a university admission officer, the other becomes was already a student.
Absolutely.
And then they switch roles. It's really energizing for the student also to think like them. Would they want that colleague to be a part of the university? Any questions, anyone? Really happy to. Yes, ma'am, please.
So I'm writing my email address, and anybody who needs any PPT also, please feel free to email me right now.
There is a question here, 4-tier activities. What is it?
Just a second, Rachana, we have a question in the audience here. Please, ma'am. I don't think so. Yeah.
What's the question?
Just a second, it's coming. I can repeat your question.
Okay, one is that I would really want to thank you for that slide that you shared regarding the curriculum. I think all counselors need one to have a, strategize our methodology in our schools and implement it. So I think curriculum is one thing which we all need it, and that's a great share by you. And it'll be great if you can share it. We'll be giving our email IDs to you.
It is going to be shared with all of you. It is also there in the resource section.
Yeah. Okay, coming back to my question, this is like, I think you were very lucky that you had Emily as your student. And as Saumya started a session saying that there are 3 categories, one that they're very bright and they're really good, and the one that you remember through some reason or whatever. So how do we tackle to that category of student, where you have to literally push them through and get after them, and there is no support from the parent body, there is no support from, the student himself. So how do we tackle? Because this is the category which we really kind of feel helpless sometimes, right? Thank you.
Very true. Saumya, you're taking this?
Absolutely, I'd love to. So we all have these kinds of students, where we are kind of dealing with a difficult lot, right? So up until now, the kind of experiences that I have had, I usually see that lot is not present in my sessions. Loitering somewhere around in the school, definitely whiling away the time and being caught later and giving around all sorts of excuses that I had this, I had that, so I couldn't really attend your session. I make sure that I involve them in my session because not of the fact that they're my students, but because of the fact that they're my assistants. So I take up the most difficult lot and make them most involved in my day-to-day activities so that they're helping the others make sure that they are on time. Now, somehow I've seen that this generation has great what we call FOMO. Then over and over again when they get to see that they're missing out on it, there's one final day that they realize and come back to me and say, ma'am, you never asked me to do this. Why didn't you do that? Okay, I'll do it now. I'm happy that you just came to me and asked me about it. And that's when I catch them. Sometimes it is a little late. Now that's when I have to rush with them. And that's when I, kind of put them in the center and ask the rest of them to help that particular kid. So it's a constant change of roles. But I do make sure that I point out that kind of a lot and involve that lot with me into the activities that they definitely want to do, giving them the responsibilities. Okay, go to this one, get this format, do this for me, this university is addressing, collect the students, do that, listen to this, make a report on this. They'd happily do it. Don't involve them into anything that is everyday. You get my point? Let them enjoy. And they'll see how enjoyable the process is. They'll come back.
Can I add something here?
Yes, please, Rachana.
So what I do is I normally get in their comfort zone. So I see what they're comfortable with, and I sit with them and talk about it. I chat with them about their comfort zone, about their likes, their football, their Netflix, about then we evaluate the roles of the people in Netflix and about the game, about the team, about who's doing what where. Can you be the captain? Can you be the center point? Who that does a goal? Once we do that and they're very comfortable, then slowly I ask them, do you have any choice, any future plans? Are you willing to talk now about it, or you want to take some time more? And then they come back and say yes or no. And that works very well. I've done that with a lot of students in my school, and it's been a great success for me. And then, of course, as Saumya said, we create a student group where we actually tell the students, do this. And in my school, since I'm also the only counselor, I have a group of 20 students who help me in my office to reach out to every student. So I keep them in charge. I make them in charge of this. So I call them my counseling warriors in school. And these warriors, I have a WhatsApp group with them. I'll send them messages and they'll give me information immediately. And once we have the comfort zone working, then they come and say, Miss, I think I want to do this in the future. Can we talk about it? Then they themselves come and talk, and it works wonderfully well. Thank you.
Absolutely, Rachana. As much as we would have loved to take more questions, we've been prompted that the next session is about to start. I'd really thank you, all of you, for making time for this and gracing us with your presence. Ma'am, we can talk if... Yes, please. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And we would appreciate if there are any inputs from your side, and let us be together in developing this.
We can all connect. We're all here, and all of you go ahead and speak.
Can I add to it? Can I add to it?
Yes,
Yeah, actually, I'm from Delhi Public School, Bhopal, Ahmedabad, and myself, Ms. Shweta Dalal. When I was seeing your PPT, so definitely what we do I just want to share our experience that what we do at our school is that we start giving internships at class 10th only, because this is the time when the students, they are really making their choices. So we take them to the workstations over there, to the professionals over there. They talk to them, they be with them for 6 to 7 hours. And then the children, they decide, and it has helped a lot of students of ours to decide their career, that whether they want to, because generally what happens is that a person wants to become a doctor. So when they see the doctors performing the operations, treating the patients, they really come to know this is not my cup of tea now. I cannot handle this, definitely. So this is what we do at our school also. And at the same time, we also organize summer programs. So children attend this and they come to know really whether they are meant for that also. So adding to you what you are doing, definitely I appreciate. We also do the same thing at our school also. So that was one point I wanted to share with everybody, that we do. Yeah. Thank you very much.